Smart. All right. Welcome, everyone. Today's Back on Track session. These sessions are being hosted by Iowa College Aid and ICANN. These events are going to be happening all week to help students prepare for their post-secondary adventures. You can find the link to the other sessions happening this week in the chat. So we are happy to have you here and to join us to listen to the session about registered apprenticeships, earn while you learn. Today's speaker will be Jennifer Gray from Iowa Workforce Development. So first, let's just go over some housekeeping items to get started. This is a Zoom meeting, so participants have the ability to unmute themselves at any point during the meeting to ask questions to the presenter. We ask that you do keep yourself muted unless the speaker, to prevent the background noise. So keep yourself muted during the session. And then if there's a good point where you want to ask a question, you can feel free to unmute yourself. The session will be recorded. You can ask your school counselor for the recording link beginning next week. And then if you have questions during the session and you don't feel like unmuting, you can type your question in the chat box and we'll monitor for that and then go over those either at the end or when there's a good stopping point for that. Okay, so now we're going to pass it on to Jennifer Gray, our speaker for today. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate that. So as she stated, I am Jennifer Gray with Iowa Workforce Development. I'm currently a registered apprenticeship career planner for the eastern side of the state. So like Waterloo, Dubuque, Mason City, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Davenport, Burlington, and Ottumwa. I probably missed a couple cities in that area, but mostly for the eastern side of the state. And then I also have a counterpart who does the western side of the state. So I'm here today to talk to you about registered apprenticeships. And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it'll work. Let's see. Can everyone see that? Okay, perfect. All right. So I am going to present. There we go. All right. So as I stated, I'm here to talk to you about registered apprenticeship programs. Basically, I work with individuals who are interested in getting into registered apprenticeship programs. Generally, I work with individuals that are 18 and over, but have worked with also high school students that have been interested in getting into a registered apprenticeship program after they graduate from high school. So by now, you probably have started to think about what you want to do after high school, whether it's college, whether it's just taking some time off before you do go back to college or do go to college, or if it's just entering the workforce. So I want to talk to you a little bit about another career pathway, which is the registered apprenticeship program. So what is a registered apprenticeship program? Basically, it's an employer-driven training program. So what I mean by that is that an employer is going to decide what you are going to learn on the job, as well as what you're going to learn in school. So there's two big aspects to a registered apprenticeship program. And we'll get into all the 5 components of a registered apprenticeship program throughout this presentation. But basically, they're going to spell out what you are going to learn on that job for that particular occupation. And then they're also going to send you to some classes to teach you the technical part of that as well, technical part of that occupation as well. So a registered apprenticeship program also combines on-the-job learning with classroom teaching. So you are going to have about 2,000 hours per year of a registered apprenticeship program for on-the-job learning. So someone is going to teach you how to do that job. And then on the flip side of that, you're going to go to school, which equals to 144 hours per year of that registered apprenticeship program. So basically, it's a full-time job. plus part-time going to school as well. And then also with a registered apprenticeship program, you're going to start earning wages day one. Since you are an employee of that particular employer, you will start receiving pay as soon as you start working. So the 5 core components of a registered apprenticeship program, I kind of talked a little bit about a couple of those components, but we're really going to dive down into each of the components. So you have a clear understanding of what a registered apprenticeship program is. So the first component is employer involvement. So what that means is that the employer decides what you're going to learn on the job as well as the school aspect of it. Plus, they're really involved, really invested in you to teach you this particular occupation as well. The structured on-the-job learning, what that means is that you are going to have like a mentor, someone that's going to teach you how to do that job one-on-one. Related instruction, you're going to have some schooling. How that schooling looks really depends on the employer and the particular occupation. And then rewards for skill gains. What that means is that you are going to receive wages throughout raises throughout the registered apprenticeship program. So generally, someone that would normally receive like a raise maybe yearly or maybe once every 5 years or once every 3 years, you will for sure receive a raise at least once a year, if not more. There's some occupations that are out there with employers that they prefer to give raises more than once a year, especially if you hit those skills milestones, which we will talk a little bit more about when we go through this presentation. And then at the end of the program, you will receive a national occupational credential. So what this means that you're going to receive the certificate once you're done with the program. That will allow you to go from employer to employer or state to state because it's nationally recognized by all employers. So now the next slide, we're going to dive deep into each of the registered apprenticeship components. So employer involvement. So you are an actual employee of that company. You will interview just like everyone else. And if you start with the company, you're going to receive pay, you're going to receive the benefits, you're going to receive everything that the rest of the employees of that company receive. They are invested in you and your future, and they want you to succeed. So what that means is that they're sending you to school. They're going to more than likely pay for that tuition. About 95% of employers do pay for the tuition for schooling. So you won't have any type of student debt or have to pay out of pocket for college. So, which is a great thing. So they're really invested in you. They're really teaching you how to do that job the way that they want you to be taught, specifically for that company. For example, with like an electrical registered apprenticeship program, what one company does may be a little bit different than what another company does. So they're going to teach you the way that they want you to be taught, and also which is good for that company. So if you go into residential more than the big commercial jobs, they're going to teach you more residential than the commercial. So also soft skills versus hard skills. So what I mean by that is basically you don't need to know the basics of that particular occupation. What they're looking for is those soft skills to be hired into a registered apprenticeship program within that company. They're really looking to see if you're going to show up on time, if you're a team player, if you're willing to learn and ask questions. They're wanting to know if you can communicate effectively with other coworkers and customers that you may interact with. So those are the type of skills that they look for when they're interviewing you to become part of a registered apprenticeship program. To have basic knowledge is great, but it's not necessary to get that particular job as an apprentice in that program. So they're really focused on those soft skills versus you knowing how to do that particular job. All right, structured on-the-job training. So this is where I had real briefly talked about a mentor. So the company, the employer is going to have someone train you how to do that job on the job. So it could be someone that has done this particular occupation for quite some time. It's someone that has a lot of knowledge of this occupation that may be looking to retire down the road, and the employer wants to keep that knowledge that that individual has. And the best way to do that is to train other individuals, which are apprentices, to learn that job. So then that knowledge isn't out the door when that person does leave. So that mentor will be with you daily. They will be one-on-one with you. They're going to teach you how to do that job. During this process, you're going to develop new skills. You're going to develop the technical skills of how to do that job. And sometimes these skills, the hard skills are transferable as well. So not only are the soft skills transferable, but the hard skills as well are transferable. So you're going to learn, you're going to really develop those soft skills as well as really develop those technical skills too, those hard skills. With the Registered Apprenticeship program, there is what we call skills milestones. So you have to reach these skills, these milestones with your skills, with new skills throughout the Registered Apprenticeship program. So once you start a Registered Apprenticeship program, you will see how it's all laid out from the very first month to the last month of this program. So you're going to see what you're going to learn throughout that entire program. They're kind of divided up with milestones, what we call milestones. So you'll be able to see what's coming up, what you're going to learn right away, and then what would be coming up as well throughout that program. Not only that, you have the support of the company. They want you to succeed. They want you to learn these skills to be able to perform this occupation. So you have that support, you have that mentorship. That is really important with the Registered Apprenticeship program with employers. When it comes to employers, they really do want to support you through this process. Related training instruction, which means classroom teaching. So as I stated, you are going to have that learning on the job as well as going to school. So how that looks is really how that employer has that set up. So what that means is that the employer could send you to a community college to perform some of those classes, especially if it's a hands-on type of occupation, such as like HVAC. That's more hands-on. So more than likely you would not be able to do online classes. You would have to go to a community college to learn how to perform certain work on those, like the AC or the furnace or water heaters or whatever else. Or you could also go to online classes as well. So depending on the occupation, you could do online classes and community college as well. Some employers have their own classroom and instructor on site. This does happen quite often. A lot of the unions have those where they have their own classroom and their own instructor. There are some employers that I do know outside of the union that also have that as well. They have their own instructor and classroom on site of that actual employer office. So, but again, how that is set up really depends on the employer. The employer is going to decide how often you go to school, which equals the 144 hours per year of that program. So you could actually work 3 days out of the week, 3 or 4 days out of the week, and then go to school one full day of the week. They could send you to a couple of night classes. You could work pretty much, all year long, and then maybe take 3 weeks off just to do the school piece of that Registered Apprenticeship program. Again, all this would be stated to you, how it is all laid out at the beginning of the program before you would even go in for an interview to see if it would be a good fit for you. So rewards for skills gained is the next component of the Registered Apprenticeship program. So you are going to know exactly what you're going to start out as for pay wise at the beginning. You're going to see your wage increases throughout the program. And then you're also going to know what your ending pay is. So you could start out at $16 an hour and end up at $21 an hour by the time the program's done. And you're going to see how often you get those raises throughout that program. Also, you're going to improve your soft skills by learning the technical skills of the occupation. Because of that, they're going to reward you for that. And the way that they're going to reward you is through pay. So again, you're going to see those as you progress through the Registered Apprenticeship program. You're going to see those wage increases as you progress through, especially as you hit those skills milestones. That's generally when a wage increase will occur, is during that time. Next up is the National Occupational Credential. So I talked briefly about this, but what this means is that at the end of the program, once you have completed the program, you receive a certificate. This certificate is signed off by the Department of Labor. It's stating basically that the apprentice has the skills and the knowledge to perform this particular occupation. This is a nationally recognized certificate. So if you decide after your program, I want to move to, Minnesota, you can take that with you, and it will be recognized through another agency that you performed and graduated from RA program, from a Registered Apprenticeship program. So then that way you wouldn't have to start all over again through another program. So as I stated, you can move from employer to employer and state to state. They will recognize that certificate, and they will, that way you can move forward as well in your career. For example, if you had to go through a Registered Apprenticeship program, and at the end of that program as an apprentice, you have to take the journeyman license to continue through the occupation. This will help you with that, because then you won't have to start all over once you have that certificate. All right, so why a Registered Apprenticeship program? So you're going to have employment during and after the program. So what that means is that even though an employer has hired you on to be an apprentice, does not mean that after the program is ended, that you are done with that employer. You will continue to stay working with that employer if you choose to. You can also, the employer can also help move you up in that career if they could, okay, you completed this Registered Apprenticeship program, now let's move you into the next level of that career. So they are also there to help you move forward as well. So again, just because you're done being an apprentice, you fulfilled that obligation to become an apprentice and to graduate from the Registered Apprenticeship program, that you are not done with that employer. You still can continue to still work there if you choose to. It provides on-the-job training and classroom instruction. So a lot of companies now, if you get a job, you have the on-the-job learning in some aspect. But you don't get the classroom instruction. That's basically up to you to make that determination if you want to go back to school to further your career or receive more technical skills to help with that potential career that you're in. So with a Registered Apprenticeship, you have both. You have the on-the-job training and classroom instruction as well. So you're learning the technical part in school, and also you're practicing it while you're learning it as well. So that is one of the great things about a Registered Apprenticeship program. So the occupation is focused on the education. So what that means is that you are not going to go to school and have to take all these other gen ed classes. It is geared specifically for that occupation. You are only going to take classes that are focused on that occupation. So you won't be taking like a communications class, you won't be taking a typing class, you won't be taking, all these various gen ed classes that you normally would take if you go to school for a degree. You will not walk out of the education part with a degree. You will walk out with some certificates if that is what is needed for that occupation, but you will not walk out with a degree because the education piece is so focused on the occupation. It allows you to advance in your career. I spoke about this a little bit where, if you are required to go through a registered apprenticeship program in order to become a journeyman, then that is a needed thing that has to happen. That registered apprenticeship program has to happen for you to become a journeyman. So it does help you advance in your career as well. I also have some employers who require a registered apprenticeship program before they can move up into what the next level of that occupation would be with that company. So it's not just focused on the journeyman, it's focused on other levels, the different employers that are out there and what kind of occupation that you're wanting to get into. So as well, you have wages increase as your skills increase. So your wages are going to increase as your skills increase. I've stated where you're going to see how much you're going to make to the end of the registered apprenticeship program. So you will see how much you start out at and how much you're going to end up at. And you're also going to see those wage increases throughout that program. So you're going to know, okay, if I'm going to start out at $16 an hour, by the 6 months, I'm going to make $16.90 or $17 an hour. And then the next year I may make $18.50. I'll be at $18.50. So you can kind of keep that in mind as you're moving through that registered apprenticeship program. So the length of the program. So it's going to range from 1 to 5 years, depending on the occupation and program. So a lot of our healthcare registered apprenticeship programs, such as the dental hygienist, a CNA, we also have medical secretary that's out there. We have coding that's out there, medical coding that is out there. Those are usually 1 to 2 years, depending on the occupation and depending on the employer as well. The range from 4 to 5 years are usually your HVAC and electrical, those skilled trades that have had registered apprenticeship programs for decades. So again, it depends on the occupation and the employer and how much they want you to learn. That will determine the length of that program. It cannot be less than a year. It has to at least be 12 months because you have to have 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning and 144 hours of schooling. And that is based on per year. So you have to get in those amounts in order to be to have accomplished or to have gone through a registered apprenticeship program. So again, 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning per year and 144 hours of related training and instruction. Now, how that looks, again, depends on the occupation and the employer. You could do a combination of online classes as well as attending some classes at a community college or on site with the employer as well. Oops, went too far. Okay, so right now, these are just some, I threw in some pictures just to show you some of the occupations that are currently out there for registered apprenticeship programs. However, there are over 1,400 occupations. A lot of people associate registered apprenticeship programs with the skilled trades, which is true. The skilled trades have been known to have those registered apprenticeship programs. However, there's more fields, more occupations that are really looking at the registered apprenticeship module and seeing how it would work for them. So currently right now we have CNA, we have medical secretary, we have medical coding, we have dental hygienist. There are even with bank, we're working on a registered apprenticeship program with a bank here in Des Moines that is looking to start one for loan officers. So it's really emerging more than just the skilled trades. There are occupations out there that may or may not have a registered apprenticeship program, but doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. So if you're interested in a program and you don't see it out there as listed as a registered apprenticeship program, it still means that we can make it into one. So keep that in mind. You'd be surprised at all the occupations out there that have registered apprenticeship programs. It's really interesting, and I'll show you after that presentation how to look those up as well. So job openings currently. So this was a week ago when I had done this list, but this is all in Iowa right now. I'm working with employers to see if they're hiring for their particular registered apprenticeship program. So currently right now, there's a pipe welder apprentice that you start out at $20 an hour. That is what you start out at. So that doesn't mean that's what you're going to end up with. You're going to end up higher now through the program once you're done. That could be a 3 to 4 year program right there. An industrial electrical apprentice starts out at $16 an hour just with that company. Doesn't mean that another company won't start you out higher at all. It's just with this particular company, they start you out at $16 an hour. Certified nursing assistant would be $15 an hour with this particular company that's currently hiring. A pharmacy technician would start out at $16. That would be with Walgreens. And the dental hygienist, that one's in Des Moines, and they start out at $17 an hour. And the plumbing technician apprentice would be $21 an hour. And that one is actually in, if I remember correctly, when I had done this, it was around Cedar Rapids area, Fairfield, I believe, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area. So $21 an hour. So those are just currently the job openings. These change week to week. Some stay open for a while. Some stay as soon as they find a couple of apprentices, then they close the job order. So it really depends on how many people that they're looking to start with their program as well. So any questions at all?
Yep. If anybody has questions, please feel free to ask them now or type them in the chat box.
I have a question. The first step, if a student says to me that they're interested in an apprenticeship, what's the first step that they need to take?
Okay, so that would be what I would show you on the next portion, which would be the Earn and Learn Iowa website. There's an interest form that they can fill out, and I will show you that, which I can get going here shortly, where they fill out their name, how to contact them, what occupations that they're interested in, and then also a resume that they don't necessarily have to attach, but it would help as well. Yeah. And then depending on where they're located, will depend on if myself will reach out to them or my counterpart on the western side of Sagadish-Vilecki. So, yep. And then we'll start working with them. And I can go over a little bit of what my job role is when it comes to this as well, if that's something that would help kind of clear up what I do. So.
Yeah, there's a few more questions in the chat box, Jennifer. Somebody's asking, is the hiring portion a real barrier?
And necessary, like barrier being what, like there's a lot of barriers. So I guess it just depends on necessarily like what type of barrier. But I will tell you, there are employers who are in desperate need right now for workers. So I have seen them be more flexible on their hiring than they have been in the past. So if it's something with background issues or something pertaining to a possible, disability or something, that is something that we can definitely work out with that employer. And help prepare them to talk to the employer about that. So.
Okay. All right. Another question is, what are the most popular apprenticeships that you see people applying for right now?
So it's kind of a twofold question, because I think it depends on the people that have known about registered apprenticeship programs lean more towards the skilled trades, because that's what they know, that registered apprenticeship programs are in those skilled trades. It's the individuals that have just recently started to hear about registered apprenticeship programs that would be more of the healthcare field. So CNA is very popular. Pharmacy tech is very popular as well. Those are the two occupations that I see the most of. And actually, there is a nursing program that is just starting. It hasn't been signed yet, but it's in the works for a nursing program, and it's HMWA. So those I do see quite often, people interested in learning more about and how to get into one is the healthcare field, the CNA, the pharmacy tech, and also nursing as well. But skilled trades is pretty popular. The electrical, the welding, HVAC is still pretty popular as well.
Okay. Another question is this path open for people of any age? Example is, say, a 21-year-old who has been working but now wants to choose this path.
Oh, for sure, for sure. It does not matter. There's no age requirement. There's no, I actually just helped an individual who totally switched careers. He's been doing the same career for 30 years and he decided he was done with it and wanted to switch careers. So there's no age requirement whatsoever. Not at all.
Okay. And then do any employers require employment with them once training is completed? And if so, what's the average employment requirement?
So again, it depends on the employer. Some employers will have a contract written out where they want you to stay with them. That could be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Some employers don't have that. There is no obligation for you to stay with an employer unless you do sign a contract with them stating that you will stay with them for at least however long that they put down on that contract for. I don't see that very often. I rarely do see that, but it is out there though, where they do require you to stay with them. That's something that will be stated to the individual who is interested in the registered apprenticeship program before we would take the next steps in getting them interviewed and possibly hired in that program. So everything will be talked about before that, so they can make that determination if they want to, if they would be willing to stay with that employer. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
For your time today.
Yeah. Do you want me to walk through the Earn and Learn Iowa website real quick, or?
Sure, if you have time, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that real quick. Let me get here. All right. Okay, so this is the Earn and Learn. Can you still see my screen?
We're still seeing the question slide.
Oh, you can't see my screen? Okay, let's see.
No, I'm still seeing your PowerPoint presentation, unless it's just me, but I'm still seeing the questions.
Okay. All right, let me try it again. Share screen. Share. Okay, what about now?
There you go. Now we can see it.
All right. So this is the Earn and Learn Iowa.gov website. This is all things registered apprenticeship programs. So we have, for employers, they can go on there. They can click on this link and go directly to the information that they would need to start a registered apprenticeship program. Educators, so schools, we do quality pre-apprenticeship programs, which means that there are certain programs in the school, in Waterloo, Iowa, there's the Waterloo Career Center. Those are all registered apprenticeship programs. There's Des Moines that has also registered apprenticeship programs within the school system as well. And then apprentices, which would be someone that would be interested in getting into a registered apprenticeship program. So I'm going to click on that. And then you can just read some information, and then you can also watch some videos regarding the registered apprenticeship and the apprentice and the employer as well, talking about the registered apprenticeship program that they have had. You can scroll all the way down and you're going to click on view sponsors. And this is where you can do a search for all the registered apprenticeship programs in your area. So if someone is interested that is in Davenport, they can, you can click on program type. So you can click on the actual occupation, or you can leave it blank just to see if you're not sure which occupation that you're interested in. You can just leave it blank, and then all of the registered apprenticeship programs in that area will actually pop up. So there's, you don't have to worry about the sponsor name. So sponsor name is the name of the employer. We call the employer sponsors for registered apprenticeship programs. And then you just pick how far you're willing to drive outside of your zip code. You can put your address, zip code, or city where you're located, and then click apply. And all the registered apprenticeship programs in that area will pop up. So I'm just going to click on, I'm just going to put 50701. And then you can see all the different occupations. And this is the actual employer, and this is the occupation. So right here is the location of that employer. So you can see some, like Cedar Falls Utility has quite a few registered apprenticeship programs. It's not unusual for employers to have more than one program. They can have they can have as many as they possibly want. But you're going to see that a lot with Cedar Falls Utility, Mid-America, Alliant. They're going to have at least over 10 registered apprenticeship programs. So, but that can give you an indication of who actually has programs in your area as well. Is this little, is how to search right there. And then if you're interested in registered apprenticeship programs and you want to talk to someone about it, like myself or my counterpart, this is the interest form right here. So you would just fill out your name, your birth date, your address, phone number, occupation of interest. You can list more than one. You don't have to list just one occupation. It's just going to ask you a couple questions here. And then if you want to, type us a message that we see it before we contact you, that's great as well. You don't have to. And then you can just upload a resume and then hit submit. And then depending on your location will depend on where, if it's myself or my counterpart will actually reach out to you and start the process of helping you get into a registered apprenticeship program. So any questions with that?
Thank you for going over that. That was very helpful.
You're welcome. All
Just
right.
as a reminder to everyone, we still have sessions going on all week. If you are interested in registering for any more sessions, please check out the link that's been put in the chat box to register for more sessions throughout the week. Also, the recording for this session will be available next week. And you can access it via school counselor. Okay. Okay, there's another question real quick, Jennifer. How many high school students do you see applying for apprenticeships?
I would say last year was a little bit slower, but now this year it's kind of kicking back up. I usually talk to, I would say maybe 5 to 10 high school kids a month. And I actually got, let's see, he just graduated from Dubuque last year, and he just started an HVAC registered apprenticeship program in Dubuque about 4 months after he graduated from high school. So It's not uncommon for me to talk to high school kids regarding registered apprenticeship programs and the benefits of them, especially if they're not interested in going to college for a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree. But I do talk to them. They seem more committed than the older individuals that I talk to. So I would say about 5 to 10.
Okay. Great. Another question is, do some have testing requirements such as math as part of the hiring process? And what happens if the applicant does not score high enough?
Okay, so depending on the employer, I really only see that a lot with the unions. If they're interested in getting in with the union, is that testing. That's the only, I don't see it a lot with the private employers, the employers that looking to hire for apprenticeship programs. And that's, I don't see that a lot with, the only ones I do see it with is with the unions. They do require, especially the electrical union, they do require that math, algebra. So they will test you prior to that. But I try my best to really work with that individual to have them take the NCRC. We're just starting the NCRCs again back in the Iowa Works offices. I will also send them links to practice as well for math to help them. Depending on the age of the individual, it could have been, a couple years, it could have been longer that they haven't touched algebra. So I really help them try and prepare as much as possible. So there are some employers that do require that, but I don't really only see it with the unions. So.
Okay, and then could you please, Jennifer, add the link to the apprenticeship programs in the chat?
Yep, I sure can. So chat. I'll do the interest form, and then I'll also do the search too as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at all for Jennifer before we wrap up? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us. Like I said, yeah, we have sessions going on for the rest of the week. Recordings will be available starting next week. Your school counselor.
Rahi, it looks like you might be muted.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. We want to thank our partners today for making this possible. Our partners are all listed there. And then, like we said, we have sessions going on for the remainder of the week, and people can sign up for those. That was provided earlier. And then all the recording for the session will be available starting next week. And then on Sunday, there's the Golden Circle College and Career College Fair happening. Golden Circle College and Career Fair happening from 1 to 3 p.m. in Altoona. If you are interested in learning more about that, you can sign up in the link via the chat. It's a great way to network with admissions counselors and employers. I believe that is all for today. We want to thank Jennifer again for joining us. This is a great session and we appreciate your time today. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate you taking part in this.
Thank you. I also put my contact information in the chat. So if you have any questions that you haven't thought of during this presentation, just reach out and I would be more than happy to help you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you all.